Hmm. Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to another episode of From Bloke To Woke. I'm your host, Ryan Schroter, and it's already got me laughing just thinking about the man that we're going to be interviewing tonight. He's one of the funniest dudes I've ever come across, and he just pays the fuck out of spirituality and makes a lot of fun out of it, but is also one of the most loving people that I've seen on in what he shares and what he offers to the world, and it's just incredible. Just been following him over the last probably couple of months, I guess, and it always makes me laugh. I always stick to his videos and watch the whole thing. Today I watched a video of his, and I was just like, man, you're wasting my time here, but it's just so fucking funny. So his name is Atlas Talisman, and aka the P.Wiz, and he's just recently done a video that's gone viral, that triggered a lot of people, but made a lot of people laugh hectically. And it's been, hey Atlas, how you doing, brother? So I'm really excited to hear this man's story, and I'm sure there's a lot of you that are tuning in that are as well. And for everyone who is tuning in, please just say hello. Welcome, welcome. I would love to know if you've experienced or all been following Atlas and he's made you laugh or giggle hysterically. I know it definitely has me. And I'd also love to know what you're most grateful for here. I always love to start these videos with gratitude. And yeah, just drop us a comment what you're grateful for. And thank you all for joining. And I'm just gonna go on and bring the man on himself, not Valerie. And we'll get in. Joseph, hey Jack, how's it going, my man? And yeah, he's a very wise
Wise
man.
man.
Hey, brother.
Hey, brother.
Yo, thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Good.
We've got
Oh,
a
we've got
bit of
a
an
bit of
echo
an echo
happening.
happening.
Pick up
Pick
your
up your
headphones in.
headphones in.
Sorry. Oh god. Here we go. Ready? Oh, here we are. That's better. All right. Hey, can you hear me now?
Much better.
Nice.
Oh, it's a good start. We started with a laugh, so yeah, I'm super excited about that. You like this shirt, Jax? I got it from someone incredible. Someone incredible gave it to me. But yes, thank you for coming on, brother. I'm really excited to have you, and yeah, just to kind of get to know a bit more about yourself and the character that you are that I've never seen anything like before.
Thank you.
I was just saying before you jumped on, it's just hilarious. Like you just watch some of your videos, I'm just like stuck to the screen. Man, I've got shit to do, all right?
I know the one I put up today is like 6 minutes long. That's not kosher. That's definitely cutting into people's work time. But no, I love it. I love it so much, and I love the fact that it's the thing that I put out that most people respond to. So it's just this win-win of like, do the thing I love. That's what other people love. It's just yes. So yeah, thanks for watching, man. It's hella fun to look at humanity. And I hope it comes across, not necessarily in a disparaging or negative way, because we all have those aspects. That's why it's funny, because we feel the cringe, we feel the realness. But it's one of my favorite practices is assuming the other identity and really feeling it. Like in that moment, it's me. It's me. Yeah.
Love it, bro. So good. So if anyone hasn't heard of Atlas, I definitely recommend following him. He's just got so much value and such a funny dude. So, yeah, so we'll get into it. And for anyone who hasn't watched these interviews before, the basic concept of From Bloke to Work has been, really showcasing incredible men and women, and just allowing them to share their journeys in a way that other people can see and resonate with their backstory and go, oh wow, that was me too. This is how they've gotten through whatever they've been through. and either reach out to help or get some value to assist their own evolution.
Yeah.
And I know.
Can I also just jump in there and say thank you for thank you for having this platform for exactly that reason. I love podcasts. It's an extremely generous thing for you to give stages and voices to so many people. So thanks for being an awesome relay point for the signal, brother.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I love it. It's just like, you're doing your videos and making people laugh. Like, I love putting value out for people and just hearing other amazing people share their stories and help raise the consciousness of the planet. Really, that's what we're here for.
Yes, respect.
And yeah, it's a little bit different for you, as the concept has kind of been like a before and after story. But as we were talking about before, on the pre-call, you've had a bit of a different journey, and you've kind of dropped into the juice, as you called it.
Yeah, that's right. The analogy was Asterix and Obelix for the comic book fans out there. I liken it to the fact that Asterix, he has to drink the juice every time he's going to go out to battle or into the field of wokeness, and then Obelix kind of fell into the juice as a kid and absorbed it, and that was just kind of, it's in him now. It's just how he is. So I was trying to think back to that breakthrough or breakdown moment, and I couldn't really place it, I guess, due to my formative years being around this kind of stuff, like being around detox programs and being around communication training and on trampolines as well. But yeah, it was just kind of in the mix of my makeup as a kid. So it's an interesting question as to when one woke up. But I'd love to dig further with you, man. Like, let's find the little fibers and pull them.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, so I'd love to even start at that point, and we'll just go with a bit of a flow and what you feel wants to come through. That's most important about your pivotal points of change in your life. Starting at the upbringing and through to, in summary, up to where you are now, and some of the challenges and things. And I know you've changed your name and a few other things that have happened along the way that have kind of helped you on your journey. And for anyone who is watching, feel free to drop some questions in there as we go along. And at the end, we'll just go on a bit of a free flow and question what wants to come through, and then get into sharing what you really feel cool to share to help people and whatever wants to come through. So
awesome. Yeah. Let's do it. Pop these sleeves and get dirty. Yeah, cool. I can take the baton from there and run with it from my childhood. So really just a happy childhood story. Literally grew up on trampolines. My parents were trampoline salespeople. We'd go from marketplace to festival, and I'd just be like the demonstrator, like, this is how you jump. And I think that's, it's cute. It's got this kind of gypsy lifestyle aspect in my DNA. This is a bit of an exhibitionist, like I'll be here showing you how it's done, and then you can get up and jump with me, kind of thing. And my parents also studied doing business development with people. So I guess that kind of like logic systems mind, I was around that and watching people come in and take apart their businesses and work out how to sell things better or how to communicate better. My dad did also Scientology auditing, so I was exposed to that, like Dianetics and this idea of like the reactive mind and people going through trauma and retelling it to release things. And then we went to South Africa, and I grew up in a Montessori school, raised by a really lovely woman who was very devout Christian, and so she was imparting all the Bible wisdoms and learning, so I absorbed that. And then just being out, in South Africa where I was growing up, there was just a lot of space. We lived on a 22-acre property with about 12 dogs and 4 horses and a motorbike and big rats in the rubbish tip, and it was just, I think, really healthy for a kid to be out barefoot and climbing trees and fighting fires, understanding natural cycles, the forest fires, they call it bushveld in South Africa. So these big dry landscapes with fires coming through in the different seasons, and you'd be out there fighting them, and, the flames engulfed our garage at one stage. So I guess just good adventure which I'm really thankful for. And I kind of consider that to be my formative years, really, kind of spiritual and adventurous. And then we were in South Africa when Nelson Mandela was elected. So when I was first there, apartheid was still in place. I mean, I grew up in a place where, you know, Africans couldn't be in the same pool as me. You know, there was just this white, black legal line, and I grew up in this environment on the white side, on the privileged side of that divide. And then in, was it 1995, was it, when we left? But that was basically a key part of that transitional phase, when Nelson Mandela came into power, and it was the new South Africa. You know, the flag got changed, and an entire new generation got brought up in a society where it was us, it was Africa, it was South Africa, rather than the place that I kind of grew up in. So yeah, that's my formative years. And then after that, I arrived in Australia, which is kind of, I guess, the teen phase.
Awesome. And it kind of, well, what switched up from there for you in that journey?
What was the question, sorry? What?
Yeah, so like you came to Australia, and was there things you'd had to adjust to coming to Australia?
Yeah, absolutely. So being in a Montessori school, my entire school was like in one class. So they didn't have the years broken up. My teacher, we just called her by her first name, never used to wear a uniform, bare feet. And so I arrived in Sydney like halfway through year 8. And I had to have my hair tied back. I had to wear a tie. I remember rocking up my first day of school feeling like I was literally being strangled. I had a tie, I had these uncomfortable leather shoes, walking down these big corridors into rooms. I'd never done like yearly exams before. So it was a huge adjustment. And I just got in there and, you know, studied hard and just tried to catch up and acclimatize. But I think for me, the saving grace was art. When I was in Johannesburg, I used to study at the Johannesburg Youth Theatre. And so it was like singing, acting, and dancing. And as soon as I arrived here, or in Australia, I used to go to Australian Theatre for Young People and audition for Actors College for Theatre and Television, which was like an extracurricular thing, which I did for a year, and Impro Corps Australia doing theatre sports. So I was just an art geek. So while other teenagers would be, you know, hanging out on the weekend and getting stoned or whatever, I would just get my mum to take me to like an acting class or doing commedia dell'arte with, you know, leather masks. And it's the thing that made me feel like, oh, cool, this is home. I get it. Like I had art in South Africa and I've got art in Australia. So that kept me sane, and also was pretty much the flavor of all my teenage years. I was just an art geek.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And so did that kind of influence the way that you kind of fitted in with the new Australian thing, with the Australian school system and different things like that? Because I know, you know, being an arty person, it can be a lot different to what we're used to in the mainstream society.
For me, I felt like that's the beauty of art. I guess I learned really early on, when you're willing to let the freak out and back yourself, people just give you room to do it. That's my experience. I went to international grammar school, and I just felt like I was between the cracks. Like I'd be friends with the jock kind of sporty guys, and I'd be friends with the drama people, and I'd be friends with, you know, most of the groups. So yeah, it was like my all access access all areas pass. And I just did it. I remember one, what do they call it? Assembly on the big stage, and wearing like a full body unitard. And like, I just knew that I just had to go full tilt. I remember learning that doing rollerblading, where if you'd rollerblade and then try and slide and not fully commit, you'd probably like catch and tumble. But when you really leaned into it, it would be beautiful. You know, I think for me, physics is my best teacher. It shows you how friction works. It shows you how alignment and momentum works. And that's just the way I worked it out. You know, I got up there on the assembly stage in front of people I didn't really know, in a unitard, probably like teenage cock and ball showing. And I was just like, man, this is me, God. And just, I think people, even if they don't get you, they go, shit, he means it. Like, I don't know what he's talking about, but he's all in. And that's whom I guess my big inspirations are growing up, were people like, Robin Williams, Will Ferrell, people who just commit and just run with it. You can see the spark of genius. You can feel their aliveness. And I think that's universal. So even if people didn't relate to my art, they related to my all-inness. And that's something I still do today. It's just like you go all in, you show up, you don't have that tendril of attention which is referring to something else, because I feel that's a bit of disrespect. It's like, oh, here's a thing I prepared earlier, or this is what I need to do, and people don't believe you. They're like, bullshit, I see you glaze over, your mind's not with me. But because I did that, I feel that, yeah, it enabled me to fit in, or not fit in, but be held in that.
Mm-hmm. I guess at that point in the all inness, you wouldn't really give a shit anyway.
It's beauty, it transcends into beauty. There's this really beautiful word, sublimation. And it's like this idea of, like, in my mind, it kind of evaporates into another form. It's like, giving a shit or not giving a shit, that's kind of like social hierarchy and stuff like that. And when you're in flow, like when you're busting out of your body, when you're sweating, when you're like trying to catch the lightning, it sublimates. It becomes something. It's no longer me doing, like, everything dissolves. I'm no longer on a stage in school, because you realize the fallacy of those arbitrary categories. Like, there is no such thing as school. It's just, all there is humans and space. And we can attribute significance by saying, oh, it's a school, or it's a church, or it's a playground, or it's a house. That's bullshit. That's just like a human construct. And I think you start to feel that everything dissolves, and it's just like, fuck, we're just a bunch of naked monkeys, and we're sharing dreams. And yeah, so I guess didn't really care, as you said, by that stage, because I was in love with the moment.
That's so beautiful, bro. Love it. And did you go on to share, the way that you were, and help other people kind of step out into their expression and their art? Because I feel to go back into the concept of, from Bloke To Woke, and this really being about men being able to express themselves. Was there a point where you started to really help people in that aspect?
It's funny, I often think about, would I coach people if there was no need? And the answer is no. Like, you've got your calling or your vocation, and that's what you're born to do. I like the definition of the word genius is that the spirit that was attendant upon your birth. And I don't necessarily think I'm a born coach or facilitator, because if we were just all out there living healthy lives, doing martial arts, doing creative art, going on our pilgrimages and journeys, I'd be like, cool, like, you guys have got it. I'm just going to do funny characters, and I'm going to allow my mind to come into the storyscape, because ultimately I love alternate reality games and creating these other possibilities and other realities. So no, I didn't start sort of teaching, but what I found was that by being barefoot most of the time, by having parents who gave me an idea that my life was mine, I didn't sort of owe them anything, and by creating a lot of art and expressing myself, I just found a general kind of wellness. And also, the stuff I did with my parents, offloading my chest. If I did things that I felt bad about, like, I'd tell them about it. And we had this dialogue throughout my teenage years, which really enabled me not to have shame, and to come to them and tell them, these sort of things. So I had this sort of clarity. And then I looked at people around me, and I saw the introversion. I saw the discomfort, the way they're in their bodies. I saw the heartache when they didn't do what they knew they should have done. I'm like, shit, like, I see that in you. Like, here's something I do. Maybe write a poem, or do you want to go dancing? Or when was the last time you were naked in the rain? Like, just like, yeah. And I think that seeing the way people responded, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll just do this more and do this more. And to be honest, it's just so that I could play with free people. Like, if you go to a party and everyone's awkward and smoking weed and in paranoia, it's like, I got no one to play with. And I want to play, but I don't feel like I'm doing this course at the moment with Yana and Vela Souls and Yaniso, called The Vow. And we're looking at these ideas of the layers of self. And one of my key layers is the warrior. It's like the noble, high integrity. And I guess it's a very masculine kind of aspect of like, this is the way things need to be. And I love, security and protection. I'm called to that natively and innately. And so because I wanted to play, I had to satiate that warrior part of myself. So if I'm around people who are going around stealing things, putting others down, destroying stuff, I'm like, I can't bring my clown out. I can't be silly with you guys. I can't do these silly voices and characters. So it was almost a self-serving thing of like, I need to sort you guys out so that you're not so damn jealous. You're not so damn distrusting of everyone, so that we can actually then do what I want to do, which is do silly stories and characters. So I guess that's how it was born. And I think the very first time I started running a workshop was in 2004. I went to a workshop run by a guy called Morganix. Huge shout out and respect to Morganix for doing all the work he does with Indigenous kids out, in real bush Australia. He gives them voice, he records tracks, he teaches all the elements of hip hop, and he's just one of the OGs, the original crew at the forefront of Aussie hip hop. So I went there to a freestyle workshop that he was doing, and he was just passing through. He was a journeyman, I guess, like a lot what I do now. And he was only there for a week, and I was like, I know this stuff. I've been doing improvisation and stuff for my whole life, or for most of my life. I can run this sort of thing. So because he was going to leave the next week, I put up my hand and said to the other guys who were at the workshop, does anyone want to just get together and do this every week? Because I love this. Like, I want to freestyle and cipher every week. And 2 people put up their hands, Arrow and Gabby. Shout out to those amazing women. And we just started doing it. So every week I ran a thing called Outspoken in Glebe Town Hall. And that's kind of how my role as a facilitator was born. And I think that by, the old thing of be, do, have, right? By putting on the hat of being a facilitator, I therefore learned how to facilitate. Because people come to you and they treat you like that. They go, oh, well, how does this work? And you go, okay, teacher's mind, how does that work? How do I do that thing? And I learned to teach by teaching. And I'm just so excited by what came out of that. It was like my training ground, for one whole year, pretty much every single Saturday, I held Outspoken. And looking in hindsight, like, by no means do I think I made Australian hip hop, but when I look at the people who came through, it's people like Joel Rappaport, who runs Big Village. It's people like Tucker, who's in, Fundamentals. It's these Missy, who's in Ginger and the Ghost, who's more of like an art assembly band installation artist now, called who runs the Nest Creative Space in Sydney. It's some really exciting people who now are making massive waves in the art scene, and it just feels like it was a seedling ground, and from doing that for a full year, I was like, yeah, okay, I know I can facilitate, and then I've just been doing it ever since.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Yeah, well, your energy is infectious, and I think just anyone that's seeing your videos makes you want to be more funny. Put the funny guy hat on and just be a dickhead.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh God, it's so good. It's when you're standing there and you're looking like, what the hell's happening? I'm feeling it coming up in me, and then you feel embarrassed. So then you go look into that face and like drop into the I think actually most of the time and then it feels come down my throat. Hi, my name's Dr. Phil. When you're looking at the way that a man loves a woman, or a woman loves a man, or now we've got transgender and LGBTQIFTO, a man loves a woman looking at the man thinking she's the woman he wants to be inside her. I look at them and I say, do you know that I'm witnessing the mirror image of your internal reflection? I say, God, your inner child is now on my swing. There's craziness in it, but it comes from the body, and it's like, and you feel like being a dickhead. It's awesome. I think that a clown is the first one to look like a dickhead, and that's the beautiful service. Is like, I'll go out there and I'll say yes, I'll jump in, and when you're bleeding, people go, shit, I'm either going to leave him bleeding on the ground, or I'm going to slide in too, because I was feeling that momentum. And it's really simple. It's this funny parallel between you're really confident because you're doing it first, you're telling jokes, you're putting on characters. That's really embarrassing for me to do. You can do it, therefore you're above me. But when you do it as a sacred clown, you're actually putting yourself lower. You're the one making the mistake. And therefore it's this weird thing of, I'm inspired by you, but I feel sorry for you. And I think that's what gets us, called to step into that space too.
That's beautiful. You share that. Yeah, it's like like a leadership into another part of self that's not being expressed, and when you see someone else doing it, it's like, oh, I'm okay. I can do that too, kind of thing.
It's all like, honestly, man, this is all I do is try every single time to draw myself up again. And you can feel it, talking about the meridians, like it's that governing meridian. It's coming up your spine. It's your godliness. It's your purpose. It's your integrity. And then sinking down this front line, down your central meridian, into your humanity, into your humility, into your organs, into your mortality, and keeping that cycle going. That's it. It's showing up and being alive with whoever you're working with. Like if it's with you one-on-one, if it's on stage, if it's in the street, wherever it is, and it's going like, shit, I'm going to try and get out of my way. I'm going to try and be electric. How can I be real enough that you trust me, that you show up as real? That's literally it. And that's all I do again and again and again. That's what the form, like the basis of open world theater is. And it's universal, because it doesn't matter if you're arty, it doesn't matter if you've trained in theater and improvisation, you recognize it. If you see someone who's in the moment, if you see someone who's struggling and channeling, you trust it. It's like this animal heart beating. And that's why we love, I think that's why we love kids and animals, is because they're so external. They're just like sincere. Sincerity and earnest approach is so missing in our society. When you look at the people who run this place, when you look at the big businessmen, or you look at politicians, or you look at superstars, there's just this little layer of safety. And I think we've come to a point where it's like, fuck, I don't trust that, because I don't see your beating heart. I don't see your external attention. Like when you're watching, and you don't have to be nice. That's the thing. When you look at an animal, a predator, like they're gonna rip the throat out of something. It's not like they're Mary Poppins, but I trust it. Like I trust that thing in that moment, because I feel its aliveness, and that's what I try and bring through every time.
I just want to come and see you act, just from hearing you speak too. Just like
Cool.
feel like you said, like you were explaining, just like feel that fire coming up, because you can feel it from you. It's like, yes.
Yes, be alive, be alive. And I really like the fact that you said you want to come see me act, because that's what I'm calling in this year. I realize the repellent nature of trying to save the world. I've done a lot of charity work. I worked as a volunteer for 2 years. I've worked with community people. I've worked with refugees. I've started a New Kind Festival with Erfan Dileri, and huge respect to him for continuing that on. I've been out there with a real intention. I've done life coaching, and I am a spiral practitioner right now, and I will still take people through it. I deeply believe in the work. Ritual and ceremony is a key part of my life. I want to do, manifestation charts and administrative scales, and I believe in it all. I do. But if I come to you trying to help you, trying to save you, it's not the equal openness that really allows that crucible to take fire, So this year, I'm just like, I still do that. People know I do it, but I'm not going to tell you about it anymore. I'm going to do what I love, which is the characters and the comedy. I want to get out in the streets and do open world theater. I want to put a show on that is inspired by people like Kyle Cease, and Jason Silva, people that are running around, maybe Jesse Elder, people that are taking ideas, taking this questing adventurism, taking comedy, mashing it up, inspired by my peers, people like Alpha Mama doing Church of the Goddess, and Paisley Hart with fight music, and Vela Souls bringing through their amazing fusion of dance and catharsis. So I'm just be an artist. Simple. and my keyword for this year is authorship, and I want to release the things that I've been kept inside, the books and the characters, the animated series, the card games, and I think that I trust, and I'm actually seeing the results, that's what resonates with people. Not trying to save you, but trying to bring myself to life in front of you.
Mm, that's beautiful. And yeah, that's exactly how, you're saying, I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to sell you this thing that I do, but it's actually like, this is the way that I am. Like, and
Yes.
allowing the people to go, oh, fuck, what's he doing? What's the thing that's helped him to get into that fucking pure expression, that energy that you are. And I'd love for you to share as well, because you dropped that you were a practitioner, and I'm very interested to know, because before you even went into the process, you were very, very open, very arty, very expressive, and that kind of thing. And what, for you going through the process, what changed for you, and what tangible results came through in the way of your art?
I think
Totally, yeah.
the common thread through a number of the practices that I've experienced throughout my life, the ones I was brought up with, Kundalini yoga, rebirthing breath work, meditation, and spiral, is that it directly interfaces with the energy body. And that can seem like an esoteric concept, but it's very tangible. It's very layman. It's like the energy and constriction and expansion we feel, and it's not just organic, it's not just physical. Like, we are these electrical beings. And it taps into that. It taps into the feeling of weight. It taps into the feeling of closing or opening. And that for me is the key tool socket that I like to plug into. So when I started to work with Spiral, and it was a really practical, it's basically based on kinesiology muscle testing, and it's a conversation with the body. It worked across the 5 bodies, which being the spiritual, the mental, the energetic, the emotional, and the physical. And it's just like a genie in your pocket. You just wake up and you go, cool, I'm going to clear my chakras. And so for those of you who aren't familiar, the 3 primary modalities it draws on is the 7 chakra system from Eastern philosophies. It looks at spiral dynamics, which is how we evolve as individuals, but also as a society, and anything larger, any kind of system. It's this spiralic nature of evolution, and an integral theory. It's not sort of separating our growth, but it's building on and including, which I really like. And then it's the scale of consciousness as well. So it's this idea of the physical weight of a wavelength being attached to an emotion and awareness. And I was familiar with that kind of thing through the work my dad did. There's like an emotional tone scale I was familiar with growing up. And then it's like, the scale of consciousness, that's very similar. And I guess, so for me, it wasn't like a totally new, like coming across the spiral, it wasn't a rebirth or a totally new thing, but it's like, I know this. I've got this precedent. I know how to work with my body. I know what it feels like when I'm open and floating and yes. So I guess for me, it was just like it's like a Swiss Army knife for my energy body. It's like, what's that? I'll just cut that bit out. I'll just clear that. I'll rub these points. And it really aligned with my love for martial arts as well. Because, I've got here tattooed here, open form, very inspired by Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, which is the idea of the formless form. And it's not ascribing to any one structure, not being didactic or stuck on a modality, but looking at the outcome and how you can serve the moment. And so I guess as far as the changes that it elicited in me, it just gave me another mouthpiece for the stuff I already knew. It gave me a very easily translatable and transactionable tool. I can get on a call with someone and we can do some, root clear, look at emotional anchors you've got and just reframe it with some NLP, like repatterning. So it gave me a language to converse with people on. And potentially one of the most exciting things for me is just the peership group. It's like it's a rallying point for spirit punks. For people of a rebellious nature, who are still sentient and looking for spirituality, but don't want the bullshit. They want practical results. They want it to be the path of descension as well as ascension. We want to be embodied as well as, blowing our crowns open. So I just like the peeps. I like Dane's, magician, tantra, personal businessman kind of stuff. And I love the clarity and sincerity of people, Ben, Marin and Yana and Alpha. I respect those crews. So regardless of the modality, it's a vortex that's gaining momentum, and it's like, cool, bring your shit, let's integrate, let's bust some stuff up. Like, he's very irreverent, Dane, when he goes, I don't even care if these are the right points, let's just rub some stuff and use intention. It all comes down to intention. And I think when we get too academic, we start deifying the tool, and we alienate ourselves from that inner intuition, that knowing. But he's like, no, you're setting the container through the intention. This is going to work because I say it's going to work, and you trust it's going to work. And you know what? The reason you've called me in is because you're ready for this, and you're doing all the work, not me. I'm not some guru. I'm not some sage. I'm just holding space, and I'm looking you in the eye and say, what the fuck should you be doing? What the fuck should you be saying? You know the answer. And I'm just going to, I'm going to look down the barrel of the camera at you, and you're going to do the work. You're going to do it. You're going to do it. So yeah, that's kind of the change it brought in, was just like a pack to run with, these wolves howling.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. The tribe of the spiral practitioner is just fucking epic. And if you are a practitioner, just drop us some love here. There's a few of you jump on the live here now.
Yeah, are there any? I saw a couple of people joining, and are there any questions? I saw a few comments and stuff.
I think there was a couple.
Couture, she was asking, when am I next doing a masterclass? What is it? Love it. Ventriloquist, Dr. Phil impersonations. Glad you did that. So yeah, as far as actually, sorry, I'll give the steering wheel to you. Where do you want to go, Captain? Where are we going? I was going to go on a chat on open world and masterclasses, but no. What are we doing?
We can do that. We'll open up for what you're all about, what you're doing and creating at the end, and how people can get in touch with you and stuff. But yeah, I'd love to jump on the other topics that you wanted to talk about, which were.
That was me watching us 2 minutes ago. I just wanted to catch up on what we're doing.
Oh, being interviewed? What?
What? Oh, that was a good point. Okay, I'm up to speed.
There was a point where you were saying you wanted to challenge the idea of being woke. I'd love to hear what you've got to say about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think there's a real obvious short-sightedness in the idea of being woke or not. I think we've pretty well dove into the pit of masculine, feminine. Like, hey, we're not just one or the other, we're both, and there's a gray area in between. But I think wokeness is a similar kind of place of a huge array of degrees of awareness, and trying to reflect on, cool, what was my bloke, what was my woke? What are these 2 points I can refer to? I thought, yeah, cool, maybe I can use the asterisk and obelix analogy of like, well, I've always been woke. I woke up like this. But then I thought, well, what if I'm still in bloke mode? Like, what if I am still the bloke version of my eventual wokeness? And that is more exciting to me, rather than like patting ourselves on the back of like, look how woke we are. We don't beat our girlfriends anymore. We can look and use mirror theory and realize that maybe some of the things that piss me off about you are things that are actually in myself. Like, cool, but surely that's not like our metric of like having made it as a species. So I reckon we're not woke yet. I reckon we haven't busted through, because I feel in myself a state of being of true bliss, of true integrated nature, of uninhibited art, of really gentle, tender, sentient nurturing, of love, of keen, humble observation of the universe through science and through spirituality. Like, I feel the sense of that state of being, and I don't live it, and I don't see it being lived. So my call to the woke community is to wake up. My call to the woke community is to don't do stuff which bores you. Like, you know, all these Facebook posts when we're like talking about, this is the 17th time I've had a breakdown and I'm processing this sort of stuff. Like, I'm bored of that stuff. Surely you're bored of that stuff. Stop just recycling the swill of our past achievements and look at, okay, this is how I see it. I think that we're dancing on the rooftop of a pre-established tower built on the establishment of consumerism, capitalism, patriarchy, of possession. Possession's a massive one. The fact that we can own something and lock down, and that's what our whole, map is based on, is countries owning each other. And like, we're the free ones sunbathing naked on the roof of that tower. The woke people are still on the tower of possession. And so I'm interested in the next phase, when we're not just living in our own separate houses, paying rent and living an entrepreneurial life where I can go around and do my yoga retreats whenever I want. Like, that's not wokeness to me. And so what my question is what is the next phase of wokeness? How do we dissolve the possessive nature of homes? How do we evolve out of a transactional economy? Because basically the way that I think everything runs is based on the juice of life. You can think of money as bad, but it's called currency for a reason. It's a current that flows through things. And so I want to work out how we can shift our currency from a commodity-based economy through the service-based economy, through the experience-based economy, maybe into a change-based economy, and beyond that, where the systems themselves that we live and work in or live in or establish as urban environments are living and breathing. And those things have a life pulse. If you look at a puppy or a bird or a human, we measure the heartbeat and we go, cool, it needs food, and these are the metrics of aliveness. When we look at something like the medical system, its food is given to it when it's not doing its job. So if a doctor does not make you healthy, then he gets paid because you're sick. So you rock up to this big system, and therefore it's an ingrained self-defeating mechanism. The medical system needs you to be sick in order for it to survive. The prison system needs you to break laws in order for you to fill the jails, in order for them to exist. So their purported intention and what they need to subsist off to continue are completely at odds. Therefore, they're never going to bring about the change they want. So my idea is a systemic shift where we build systems, educational systems, medical systems, communities, etc., that are living organisms, and they need to subsist off a positive outcome. So the doctors should be paid when people are well. The prison systems should be paid when people are free and law-abiding. This is the way that the whole structure, the whole organism of society can evolve. And until then, we're not woke. We're just visionaries. We're just dreamers. And that's all we'll ever be. We've got our binoculars out and we're seeing the potential of this ephemeral thing. But coming back to Spiral, it's all about the integration through all of the bodies, the manifestation channel from these beautiful ideas of Crown and Third Eye. And how does it make sense? How do I express it? What is the organization? What are my personal goals and who's my team? And what are the practical actions I can take to do that? So that's my challenge to the woke community is, cool, let's do the self-development work. I got it. Let's be okay with the id, the ego, the I. But beyond that, the I extends to the system. So only when we're living in different urban environments, only when we've got different education systems and the economy itself, like what we pay our rent with, is no longer based on transactions, but based on evidenced change. Like, I reckon I should be only paid not through time. Like, if you want to coach with me, it's not based on the time that I give you, because that's transactional. Instead, it's this change that happens in your life. Therefore, I'm subsisting off a beneficial result in the world. And I think that for me is woke. That's when we'll be woke.
Amazing. Loved all of that. And for everyone else who did, please drop some love hearts on that shit. Share this video, because what just came out of this incredible man's mouth needs to be shared. And I, yeah, I think you broke it down very well. There's nothing more that I can really question on that sense. But I guess there there could be a little bit, but like how, where does one start? I guess because like we're
Mm.
talking to you're talking to the woke community here, like people who've done the work, they've done the
Yeah,
clearing,
yeah.
all that shit. Like
Mm.
we're dropping it back down. Like where does one start from there to be able to?
So I guess, when you look at your legacy, Oprah Winfrey talks about the legacy, which is like, I guess, your story. May your life be the signature of your soul. What is the mark we're leaving behind? What contribution are we making? What is the echo that passes through us? We're a mimetic culture, meaning we take things in, we copy it, we share it, and viruses get spread that way, but also a lot of change and spirituality and consciousness get spread that way. So when I looked at what legacy I wanted to leave behind, it comes down to open world theater. And when I looked at how I can take people through that, it's an awesome question. Like, what are the steps? How do we enter and where do we go? So I've broken it down into 3 levels. The first level is showing up and getting rid of, to be honest, I still see a lot of defense mechanisms at work. So for me, that's the first place. And so I can only offer what I can offer, which is open world theater. And this is the way I would take someone through into coming out to play with me. I'd say, come to open world theater level 1, or do this in your own way. But take time to take off your masks, take off your defenses, get rid of all your plans, go into, like, what areas of life do you not feel you have access to? And walk up to them and have a humble, sincere communication about, can I have access to this? Go into a building, the job that you want to do, go and knock on the door, say, hi, I'd like to talk to the manager. Go onto a public bus and start talking to strangers. Just be very gentle and subtle, but strip away and maybe even list out for yourself, what are the rules of the game you are playing? What are the unquestioned things? You could start at gravity. Like, well, I need to be stuck to the earth because gravity exists. Awesome. I need to eat because I've got this particular anatomy. Cool. But beyond that, well, I need to take my kids to school. When you speak to me, I need to listen. I need to open my eyes every day. Why? What about if you just blindfolded yourself and asked your kid to take you to their school instead? Like, just how can we disrupt the automaticities? That is the place that I would start at, is writing a list of all the rules that we abide by, flipping them on the head, inspecting them, and then pulling ourselves apart until we can actually come to a true foundation. Because I think that when we're trying to build something, too often we're standing on pre-established foundations. We need to dig right down, dig right down, dig right down until we're actually at 0 point. That's level 1 open world theater. Level 2 open world theater is the art of falling apart. So that's when we use aesthetics. And I really love the word aesthetic because it's the opposite of anesthetic. Anesthetic, you get an injection and you can't feel it when you're at the dentist. It stops you from feeling. Whereas the aesthetics, the arts, help you to feel. And I think there's something, talking about wavelengths, right? When you look at the in-between lives area, so if you look at this idea, whether you think it's just genetic, ancestral patterns being passed down, or if you think it's spiritual, like my consciousness actually passes on, it doesn't really matter. The idea is something goes from one generation to the next. And my understanding is that the physical, heavy, dense things get broken up in that transition. You can't take your gold goblet with you, but you also can't take the thinkingness, the mind, the brain, the heaviness with you. But I believe that the higher frequencies, the things encoded through song, the things encoded in beauty, can somehow transcend, and they get passed down, whether directly or culturally, socially. They go from one generation to the next. And that's why I think arts are so important. And I have this feeling of this way we can be with art, where it's not like I'm an artist, but I'm just in a state of creative expression. And that's the next way, is like sing more, dance more, and honor the potential of the beauty of what wants to come through as senior to yourself. I don't care how well you sing. If there's a song that wants to drop down and come through, please don't deprive me of hearing it. Because in honesty, it's not the singing that's the gift. It's what you will spark in me that will help me create my own song and pass it on. That's where the memes come from. That's the passing on. So that's the second stage, is the art of falling apart, coming into free flow through creative expression, and demonstrating our humanity to each other. Like, just dance in the street, sing. Everyone should be an author. Everyone should write a book. Everyone should paint a picture. Everyone should be a poet. Everyone, everyone, everyone. And that's the second stage. And I facilitate that through Beautiful Frankenstein. So these are like 24 to 48 hour art creating marathons. I'm running another one in Sydney in May. And yeah, I hold spaces for people to get into creation mode. The third level is what I'm calling, or the book that I want to attach to this is what I'm calling How to Destroy Your Life. And it's like, if I've created all of this story, if I have built my life or failed, you know, I've got all these obligations, or I've got all these successes, I've got these people relying on me, what's my exit strategy for that identity? And I think businesses do it. You know, when you outgrow your business, you get people to run it for you and you can move up and be an investor or whatever. But do we do that on a personal level, on an identity level? What's your exit strategy from you so you can live more than one lifetime in a single body's lifetime? And that's the level 3. And what I do is I take the first 2 levels. So I take the unacting, I take the authenticity, the rawness of level 1. I take the creativity and inspiration of level 2. And then I pull it out of the theater, out of the workshop room, and into society itself. And we start becoming what I call cartographers of chaos. We map the possibility and serendipity. We go out and we do rites of passages. We go bury ourselves at the beach. We go on our personal rites of passage as a journeyman. We adopt archetypes. We step into the shoes of a beggar for a day and go and see, am I willing for you to see me as someone that I'm not? And can I hold that? Can I be all things? And when we do that in the world, we start to see the genius that art can inspire in people. We start to see the boldness we play when we're playing video games. We'll, you know, pimp our avatar out. We'll drive fast. What happens when that gets applied to life itself? And that's why I want to create this game called Surf the Chaos, which is a card game you play, but you go and do things you've never done, meet people you've never met, and go places you've never gone before. And we adapt different archetypes into our personal self, and we go and we shift spaces. But the important thing is it's real. And that's where I think the third and final stage is to be out in life and experimenting with the systems, which is what I came to before. Experiment with economies, and be open to being the sacred clown that says declare the emperor's clothing, like you're naked. Like, this doesn't work anymore. Why are you so cold? Name be stupid about it. If someone is in a public space and they turn away from you, just go, oh, like, did I do something to offend you? Or if you're in a relationship and you see that slight spark in someone's eye turn into a bit of a gnarl, just go, oh, my love, I feel hurt right now. You know, I don't understand. I'm confused. Like, what's happening now? You know, like, be simple, like, come back to your little child. We're just so fucking scared and so fucking confused. Just be dumb, but be immediate with people. And shit, that level 3 is, I know it's going to change society. We're going to change economies. We're going to live in better communities. We're going to land these sacred temples. We're going to have spaces that are alive. We're eating healthy food, and Indigenous people are no longer going to be, you know, have their land taken away from them, but they're going to be able to integrate their earth wisdom and use what they know into the westernized economy. Like, fuck, brother, like, it's possible. And that's my route. That's the way I do it, through those 3 levels.
Love it. Sign me up. Let's do this shit, bro.
You have joined my cult. Good.
Well, yeah, man, like, totally. And that's, you know, it's what I'm all about nowadays. Just like, how can I be more expressive? How can I be more artistic? How can I be more of self, or more of not self? And what's another layer of pulling that old self, and who's that? Like, who else can I be? You know?
And I think, man, oh, sorry, I cut you off. You go.
Go on. No, you're right.
I was just thinking the amazing luxury that art provides as a platform. You know, think of like the witch hunts and all these kind of things, you know, people being taken into psychiatric institutions and medicated, and all the ways that, whether it be assassinations if politicians go too far, or, you know, social condemning, all this sort of stuff. The arts provide a safe ground to literally get crazy, to get weird. I can be on a stage and play a character. I can tell you a fantastical story, all of which is really true. And it's so liberating to use the arts for exactly that. And when I look at power in the modern day, it's attention. You know, if you look at social media, it's who's got the most likes and shares. That literally gets monetized. Facebook is free, but the dude is, you know, got a multi-billion-dollar engine, culture engine, which, you know, governments want to use and has more personal information that we're sharing than anything because of attention. And so when I look at how to change the world, I don't want everyone to necessarily become vegan and start being conscious and doing yoga in the morning. And like, that's once again, me trying to save the world. Instead, I think we should serve where the attention is flowing. And the attention is flowing into pop art. The attention is flowing into, I guess, you know, music with Spotify. Everyone's sharing. It's free. It's like, I can make it very accessible. There can be trends. Like, how do we create trends? Not artworks, but how do we actively create culture? That is the thing that I think is really exciting to work with. And so it's like, cool, if everyone's looking at this thing, I'm going to work out how, as an actor or an artist, I can come in and become that thing. You know, if the money, if the likes, if the devices are plugged into a particular channel, let's use those channels. Let's not like demonize and judge and say, oh, you guys are so looking at screens all the time. You're so addicted to devices. Why are people so disconnected? They're not necessarily disconnected through the devices. They're accessing a different type of connectivity. So let's get onto that network. And that's where I think that we can go as artists, is like, become chameleons, look at how we can play, what stories we can tell, what cultures we can initiate intentionally, and then put them in the places where all the eyes are focused, where all the like buttons are being clicked, and utilize those established infrastructures. And that's the way I think we can evolve, not by tearing down our existing cities and building these green utopias, but we've already laid the telephone lines, we've already laid the pipes in the sewers, we've already got these buildings and the tram lines. Let's use those existing channels, but flow through the new gold of the new Renaissance. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Yeah. Thank you, brother. Okay.
That's
Just
it.
like,
I think we found the point. I always like to that. Like, everything has its shape. And I feel like we just came to this beautiful tapered tail end of our process. It feels so nice to arrive here. I just feel like, I'm just going to take my shirt off and twiddle my nipples and drink pineapple juice now. We're done. Was it good for you?
It was amazing. Loved it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Oh, man. So good. But if you do feel like it, because I know it's kind of, you're already accessing those things that you were talking about, you know, with the videos, and you're just making fun of spirituality and making, you know, telling stories and making people laugh about the bullshit that we get so serious about, you know, this transformation and like, oh, you know, like the chakras out of line or whatever, you know, all the emotional dumping that we do on Facebook and our journeys and stuff, and just make absolute fun about it. And I wanted to like ask you about the P.Wiz thing.
Of course, P.Wiz. Let's not leave him out. For sure. We promised the fans. Yeah. Totally.
And yeah, I'd love for you to go into that, because like you've really kind of, I'm sure you've triggered a lot of people, especially women, with the whole blood on face movement and ritual and that kind of thing. But I'd love to know the inspiration of that, and you know, what was the message you were trying to portray, and yeah.
Thank you, man. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So this is that video. So I put up this video as what has now become known as the P.Wiz. I love there was like I think it was Unilad or Lad Bible, one of those blogs shared it as was it P.Wiz disgusts the internet was their headline, which I thought was amazing. And I'm like, I totally fly that flag now as the P.Wiz. But the reason that I think that it kind of fell into that viral space and got, you know, the hundreds of thousands of views and the thousands and thousands of shares was because it had it all. It was, was it real? I guess is the first question, because people were like, "What the hell is this real? Is it not?" People are like, "Oh no, it's satire." I go, "No, no, no." But like, this guy is scarred hard in his chest and does these rituals like it's literally his life, and that's why I think it was successful as far as going viral, and it's the place I like to create from, because it is totally sincere. Like, and that's the question: what's real, what's not? I do love and revere the blood love the blood work that's coming through these womb witches. Like, my partner does a lot of work with the pelvic bowl and with the womb web, and I am so honored to be included in blood ritual with the binding of that with your lover, and this amazing power and potency that comes through, and totally understand that societies have been directly subjugated by alienating women from their sexuality and from their blood, from their wombs, and shaming it, because they literally raise a culture. And so I see how that, porn and rape culture literally like are batons, like dicks used as batons to like subjugate an entire, not just woman, but the entire village, which they can hold in their beautiful, intuitive, magical ways. So that's just the premise. Like, that's where I come from and live in. And yet, the way I spoke about it, that's like, if you speak to me now and you look at the video, you can see there's a difference in my eyes. Like, that's not really me. Like, the words come out a bit slower and a bit more awkward. And like, there's this real apologetic, like, yeah, positive, like, or positive, as I'd say. Like, it is a character. So therefore, I know it's not real, it's false. But then, is the poo real? Yes, it is. Like, that's real poo on my face. So yeah, like, it's real. But am I saying that this is the way to honor our rectums and to break forward? Not necessarily. So I feel like it's this back and forward of like, it's based on reality, but it's a character, but it's real poo, but he doesn't really want you to put it on your face. It's like, that's kind of the mix. And I think there's this liberation when I can be all those things, when I can have reverence and irreverence, when I can go, you know what, you don't need to put it on your face. It's on Facebook, and we become obsessed with our face, and we are very mimetic. And to me, it's like I'm always demanding what's the next thing. Like, if 1,000 people put it on their face, I don't want to see it anymore. Like, what's the next thing? Where are we going with it? And so it's kind of like calling bullshit. It's like calling, all right, cool, we've done that. We need to evolve at the rate. It's like what is it, Bob Marley, that says those who love peace needs to become as organized as those who love war. Like, there is a concerted, organized effort to push things in one direction. We need to get over ourselves and push equally fast and just as industriously and just as organized in the opposite direction. Well, not necessarily opposite, but coercive, like I was talking about. It's not going against it. It's using the energy and coercing it or guiding it and conducting it in another way. And so that's where that piece came from. It's like, I've seen enough of the blood on the face. I love blood ritual, but also, yeah, let's talk about asses. Like vaginas are sexy, but for some reason we shame ass. We shame poo, and there's some legitimacy in that. Like, we live in such a sterile culture. We are worried about germs and diseases. I 100% legitimately like to eat earth. Like, I when I go to a new place, I remember I was in Transylvania, right? I just arrived in Romania. I was on my journeyman's quest. I was arriving in countries without using money, or sometimes using money, but not knowing anyone and trusting I'd arrive somewhere and be held. So I ended up running some retreats in Romania, at a Kashik retreat. And I walked into the mountain. I saw this earth. This mud was like rich chocolate. And I was like, shit, there's something about this ecosystem that I want to fuse with my ecosystem. There's some learning, there's some ingredients, like, I want it to diffuse into my being. So I ate the earth, and I've done that a new number of times. Like, I believe in eating earth. I believe in taking off this insulation and saying, yo, come at me. I want to dance with you. I want you to sweat into me. I want this fusing. And so, yeah, like, what's it with the asses, that is so shameful? Why can't we have a basic grounding and even being willing to touch it. Like, you don't have to like it. Like, I've got a friend and we do like these rituals and like, cool, have you tried this yet? Have you done that yet? And he's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go and try it. So he's like experimenting with like anal and rectum and blah. He's just like, I just don't feel it. It doesn't bring me to life. But at least he knows. Like, at least we have the autonomy and self-sovereignty to know what it feels like when we like insert a finger or where we actually activate our bodies. Do we know what it's like when our nervous system is electrified? There's a G spot there for a reason. Why do we have like disgust? When you look at clearing, like in spiral modality, right? You go to the stomach point, and a key one that often comes up with clients is disgust. And when you look at another point, we look at the metals, look at large intestine, shame often comes up. Like, literally large intestine, ass, poo, shame. Like, we have that wrapped up in this bundle. And one of the key things that we as men suffer from is prostate cancer. And one of the key ways to activate that area of our body is through the anus, is through the G spot, is by massaging the prostate, is by just simply allowing flow. Like, any healthy system needs to flow and have circulation. And so, yeah, by releasing large intestine, get rid of your shame. By, can we absorb nutrients? Can we receive from each other? Can we listen to each other's songs and cultures? Can we absorb new ideas? Our stomach will only absorb it when we're not in disgust, when we're not in a state of repelling. And so for me, that's the heart of what the video is about. Like, I deeply believe in that video. It's hella, it's ridiculous, but at the same time, I'm like, what's the big deal? Like, it's not actually that revolutionary. Just to put a bit of that, it's just excretion. Like, our excretion system, right? Is the bladder is defecating, but it's also sweating. You get rid of a lot of toxic shit. Like, growing up, my parents ran a thing called the purification rundown. People sit in saunas and they sweat stuff out, and you can literally smell the toxins. You can see the sunburn coming up off their bodies. Like, that's pretty putrid as well, or disgusting as well. But we're just aligned with whiteness. Our language is about light things, clear things, pure things are good, dark things, black things, dirty things are bad. So poo has become this thing which is now horrible. I didn't get sick from doing it. I'm not necessarily a doctor saying go and put poo on your face, but I'm saying it's not that big a deal. Like, so I have a son, right? And he's almost 16 now, so this is quite a few years ago. But I remember when he was 2 years old. I'm not sure any of the new parents in the world know, you get exhausted as an early parent. Like, I didn't have a full night's sleep for the first 2 years of his life. So one morning he woke up at like 8 a.m. and he goes, he's, Googling or doing, whatever he was saying as a kid. And I got up tired. I put his toys out and I just fell asleep on the couch. And then I remember this kind of feeling, and I woke up and he's standing there with poo on his fingers and he's been feeding me his own poo. It's like, here you go, Dad. It's breakfast time. And I was like, oh, wow, this is what we get to. We come to such a primal integration as a parent when you're changing nappies or being fed poo. And you get over it, you get thrown up on all the time. One of the most beautiful bonding things as a friend is like when you're a teenager and someone's like gotten too drunk and they're throwing up and you're holding their hair out of their face and you're like, I got you, I'm here. Like, that is humanness. That is humanness. And so, yeah, I reckon it's not that big a deal. It's just part of our bodies. And we are so alienated. Like, when was the last time you looked at your asshole? When was the last time you actually inspected your stool? Like, what's coming out of you? What needs to come out of you? When was the last time you fasted? There's intestinal plaque. If you fast and have certain, kidney herbs and do Himalayan crystal salt and do flushes, you'll get like ropes of black entwined shit out of your large intestine. We need to understand that. It's a simple, like, how much, it's not much real estate. It's like 5 to 6 feet of meat. Like, touch it, get up in it, understand it. And that way you'll be able to give more of yourself to someone else. You're not going to seize up when someone comes near you to touch you. You'll understand how to guide them into giving you pleasure. You might just be able to liberate them into their own. Like, another friend of mine, Freya, talks about sex being this beautiful field of abandonment. When was the last time you were fully abandoned with your lover? And this whole idea, like, I'm a bit of a rant now, but there's so many it relates to so many things. It's the root. You look at the root chakra, it's the root of it all. So much comes out from that one place. And when you look at the dominating porn culture of just like, oh, just getting a dumb slut and getting to do whatever you want and all this kind of stuff, as a man trying to get yours, you're not getting much at all. You're getting this like shell, this subservient, shrunken, obedient, performing version of a woman. When you're with an embodied, empowered, rewilded woman, Jesus, man, like you are gifted. Like you're doing the nice thing and you're holding a space for someone to be abandoned and find their sexual empowerment, but you receive so much. It's like to drink from water fountain. You're just like, it's like, oh my God, this is what people have been depriving themselves of, fully abandoned, connected people who are fully embodied and carnal and wild and simple. It doesn't have to be this crazy thing like sex and any other thing. Doesn't have to be. It can be part of our life. It can be a language. It can be as natural as having water during the day. It's like it's a practice of bliss, and it's a practice of surrender and release, and it's undoing our shame of our right to receive pleasure. And I think if we can come to that, using that as a compass, the universe is really designed pretty well. Like, I don't know who designed it, but there's some pretty cool things that just kind of guide us well. Pain and pleasure are indicators, they're signals. They're kind of little breadcrumb trails of where to go. So if we can come to a place where we can find our bliss and be guided by our pleasure, when we can do what we love so often that in the end we get paid to do it, when we can heed the call of our vocation and live and embody our genius, like shit, man. That is talking about being woke. That's when we're actually in a state of wokeness, and I believe it comes from these simple things like touching your bumhole.
Oh man, you're amazing. What's coming out of your mouth is just gold. And again, love hearts everywhere. Please share this because, yeah, like even. I saw a post about, I won't keep you too much longer, but a last spiral prac training. And I saw a post from Dane where 50 of you went to the five rhythms dance. And they're like, I don't know what exactly happened, but they're like, oh, you're being too sexual here. And I feel like learning more about sexuality and embodiment, and you're talking about touching our bumholes and stuff like that. But like, that is like, that's what we're kind of aiming for, to be grounded in everything, right? Is it like that act of like just being fully expressive in that, and with our sexuality, our shame, our poo or whatever, like being in the body, like what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think for me, it's the subtleties and freedoms in being able to traverse across the full array of embodiments and expressions. So yeah, if actually wasn't at that particular five rhythms dance, but know the one you're talking about. Like, I think that a number of things could have happened. One is that when we start to feel a sensuality, we equate it with sexuality, and we therefore categorize you being sexual. When we see someone fully liberated in their own space, even if they're not imposing, we can get triggered, go, fuck, there's something wrong, I can't do that, I shouldn't be that, all of our kind of stuff starts to play out. So we think they're being predatorial, they're trying to put that on me. It's like, no, like you want that, you're not able to express that, so then you're sort of triggered by that. But on the other side, maybe people were just learning. It's like when you look at a cub, like I do primal play fighting as well. And when you look at a cub starting to learn to roar, they go, wow, wow. They like put it all in and they go, ah, like they put everything in and they're like, ah, beating chest, gorillas, It's like we do it in a very blunt, unrefined way. So sometimes when people are learning to rewild and become sexually expressive, they don't do it in a very subtle way. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to like get up in that, And it's like, I'm allowing, and that's cool. It's like, great, you can thrust your hips. That's awesome. But for me, I think the nuanced element comes through with the mastery. And you see like an adult, like big line. They're so effortless. They're just like, and you just go, oh shit, there's power there. Like they don't need to bare their teeth and do stuff. So I think that is the place that I would like to get to at Five Rhythms or anywhere else, is the being able to move through a space, start to get that organism feeling of like, what's the vibe in the room? It's like an orchestra. How can I harmonize with what's here? How can I have my moment of a solo and then drop back in? How can I see what you're offering me and go, oh, that's cool. I'm going to build on that. We're going to go sensual here, but I'm actually bored by that because I know that there's step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of sexuality. I'm going to now go on this tangent and float this way. So that's kind of what I would encourage when we start to explore these things, is go for the subtleties. And rather than looking at go, I'm going to express sexuality now, I'm going to express primal now, look at it as a blended field and just see how dexterous. It's like if you look at Ido Portal, he's an amazing embodiment practitioner. He's like, I don't care how many how many push-ups you can do or bench press. It's like, how many moves do you have? What are the different ways in which your body can assemble and disassemble? And that's more exciting to me. So yeah, I think that's probably what happened, is that people would eat from one side or the other. Either the people witnessing it or the people doing it were a bit stuck in a category, and they were associating things. And what I would like to see is just more of a subtle mastery of being willing to be anything, being willing to experience anything, and therefore not having either an aversion to or a need of, because those pushes and pulls limit us and make it more blunt. But when you've got this open palm, you can dance more calmly, and that's when the mastery, the real, like the connoisseur flavor starts to take to the palate.
Love it. Love it, brother. Awesome. Well, actually, there's one more question that I'd like to ask, and I'd open up for anyone who does have any other questions. We've been on for a while, and I really appreciate your time, and it's just been absolute gold. So thank you.
Yeah, pleasure.
Daniel says, so refreshing hearing other blokes thinking and talking like this. Reminds me of when he falls in the toilet in Some Dog Millionaire. I'm not sure where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
But if anyone does have any questions in there, please drop them in. But I'd love to ask you another question that I do ask on every interview, and it's brought out a lot of gold. And if you could just close down your eyes for a minute.
Mm-hmm. One sec.
And just taking a few deep breaths into the heart space. And what's a message that's deep within your heart that you've learnt over your journeys and experiences and everything leading up to this point that you feel that is at utmost importance to be shared with the world?
Just when you asked me the question, I saw a picture, and it was a picture of a tree, and I felt like a little kid coming up and just putting my face up against the tree. And so I guess to try and translate that into words, I feel like a gentle settling into self is the first stage that I would encourage others to have found in myself, where you realize that nothing that is essential to you can ever be taken away from you. And therefore you're willing to let go of all else that the world demands or might rob you of. When you're in that really beautiful kernel of self, you then can move beyond self-love into service. And you go, whoa, like I'm actually in a tree. Like my whole existence is built on the life of something else. And when you do that, connect with it. Like spend the rest of your days shedding the layers between you and it. Whatever you can do to just allow you to put your face up against that tree, because you're held, you're carried. Like we stand on the shoulders of giants. we can never be at 0 point ultimately, because we are on a planet which is in a solar system, you know. So just strip your layers between you and it, that majesty of what your life is built on. That's really it. That's what I keep coming back to. And then climb, I guess, you know, there's been amazing branches growing before we were here. Climb them, you know, see how high you can go. And be interested. Find what you're really interested in. Like, and this is for myself. This is the last part's for myself. Stop worrying about everyone else's experience. Stop worrying about the interpretations, because the universe holds all points of view, and therefore everything you do will both be hated and loved, and everything in between. So just come back to what you're interested in. And if you can be brought alive by that inspection every day, you are living. And that is your compass. That will lead you to that ultimate ecstatic bliss and sublimation that I think that we all find will be home. Thanks for that process. It was lovely.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, I would love for you to share what's, you know, what you're creating now, and open up the space for you to, you know, share what's creating, what are you helping people with, what's the vision.
Thank you. Yeah, cool. Perfect way to close. I have been told that open world is my most valuable offering. And sometimes you have to listen to others, you know. We have our own self-sabotage as to why we don't offer our genius. So I'm listening to the people who love me most and know me most say that's it. So my offering is just simply that, open world theatre. I am launching it officially in Sydney. So when I say launching, I've been doing it for many years, but I realized that by traveling around all the time, people can't really go through all the levels and really access it consistently. So I want to be a stable point that every week people can come and train with me in open world theatre. So I'm launching that full time in Sydney as of May. And I've got a little chart actually of listed out. Oh, it's my phone's, I'm talking to you on it, where I'm going to be launching it. But basically, I'm launching open world theatre level 1 in Sydney, then in LA in July, New York, then coming back and doing Melbourne and Byron. So I think those will be like my hubs for now. So I would welcome you into that, to untame your art and unframe all the art that you want to put out there, and just have the relief of coming back to 0 point. And the next thing that I'm doing is the level 2 stuff, which is this beautiful Frankenstein art crashes, as I'm calling them. So I'm welcoming people into these art maker hacker marathons where we just literally create art. And actually, I call it a culture engine, because we don't just make art. We invent new words. We invent new dances. We make our own clothes. We allow ourselves to author the parts that we thought we had to consume. And I think that's an instrumental part of creating culture, is we actually can invent our new language, and we can cast new spells with our spelling. So yeah, that's what I'm really excited about. And then my personal journey is developing level 3. So it's about putting out this game, Surf the Chaos. I'm going to launch a Patreon actually this week again. I have had one for a while, but I'm going to relaunch my Patreon account, so that you guys can help me make open world theatre a reality on all 3 levels. Help fund these big, you know, art mashes, which people can come and create art and culture with. Can help me create this game, Surf the Chaos, that I want to allow people to play, so you can go out on your personal quest. You know, Joseph Campbell talks about this hero's journey, but I want that to be not just a romantic and poetic idea, but really practical, lived, because we fang for adventure, mate. We want to fucking get out on the frontier. So yeah, I want to make games that people can do that. So that's it, man. Like, that's all I'm doing is open world theatre through level 1, 2, and 3. And I'm going to be bringing it through to those cities I mentioned this year. And I'm just going to make it easy. You know, I'm just going to author these things regardless of the response. I want to get them out so that they don't just die with me in the grave.
Epic, bro. Love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Could you please drop a link or anything if you have around, or your website or Open World Theatre, and people can check it out. And yeah, it's you know, my jaws dropped. Definitely keen to come and check it out. And yeah, I feel it can be quite transformational, and it's a part of, you know, of my own journey that I haven't really gone down. I guess like in some different rituals and in a spiral and different practices, you do get in that space, but for it to be with such an intention with which you have can be, you know, quite powerful. And yeah, I'm definitely keen to come and check that out.
Awesome, brother. Would you join me in just a quick 3-part little ceremony?
Sure.
Cool. So this is something. It's just like a movement thing, but I think it's a really beautiful intention. So it's something that my amazing love and I created. So Nayla Rose is my fiance, and she and I are really determined to have love as our religion. Like, I really think that there's so much lessons through any channel. Like, if you just stick to one channel, all of the lessons will come through that one. So it's a really simple 3-part thing we do with each other. But I think that we can also aspire to do that as peers and encourage everyone else to do. So anyone else can do this as well. And so the 3 parts are: I am here to serve you. I am here to inspire you. I am here to meet you. And the way we do this, we have an action. So the first one is just to get down on all fours, or whichever way you feel is an action that shows you're here to serve. The next one is an action which shows that you are here to inspire. And I think this is really important, is be humble enough to be great. Let's not have the tall poppy syndrome where we think we always have to be humble and small. Like, shine, show up as permission. Give people the respect that if you've got their attention, you're going to deliver your utmost, because that's love. And same with our lovers and with our friends. Like, run with it, be inspiring. So that's the second one, is like, I'm here to inspire you. And the last one is, I'm here to meet you. It's like, yo, if you've got something in you that you want to do, if you want to dare, I'm here. I'll match you. I'll watch you. I'll celebrate you. I'll just be the witness to your crazy new invention. So yeah, so let's do it. So it's basically,
Okay.
What's your action? So my action will be down on my knees.
This is a bloke to woke first.
Yes.
You're catching this live. You're very lucky.
So what's your action? This is my action.
Okay.
And we'll both say, I am here to serve you. I'm here to serve you. Coming into the second one now, bringing up the energy. I'm here to inspire you.
I'm here to inspire you.
Yes! And now we'll just come eye to eye, brother. I'm here to meet you, brother.
I am here to meet you.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has probably been my favorite live. Hey?
Favorite!
Man!
Taking the first
It's a big call, because there's been some epic interviews, but man, this is up there. And I've had the most fun. Definitely had the most fun. And that I class that as being the best one.
Awesome. Yeah, salute to all the clowns, all the sacred clowns. Thank you to all the amazing artists and entertainers and comedians who have inspired me. And let's keep laughing. Let's keep playing. Life is a game. So thanks for playing.
Beautiful. Much love. Thank you so much, brother. Thank you for everyone who's tuned in. For anyone who feels, I'm sure everyone who's on this now feels it, how the power of everything that is shared, even that practice. Please share this out. I'm sure there's a lot of people that can gain some amazing value from what's been shared in this video. And much love to all. Thank you all for tuning in, and see you tomorrow.
Thanks for
Peace, brother.
watching. Peace, bye.
Love you, bro. See
Love
you
you, brother.
soon.
Thank you.